speaking about social media. So we're still figuring it out as well, but the question is, has it taken away from our ability to connect deeper, or has it elevated our ability to mobilize people around a cause? Is it detrimental, is it not? And these are some of the questions that we want to sit and actually mull over together and have honest conversations around. What does it do? Is there a pride issue there? Is there a self-consumed, indulgent thing there where I just want you guys to like me? You know? So, yeah.
So if you want to hear a little bit more about that and our thoughts on it, stick
around!
I think to start, there's a reason why social media has become so large. I think over 1 billion people on Facebook.
Yeah.
There's a reason, and I think it's because it's a powerful means of communication. I think it's done an incredible work in terms of the Arab Springs probably would have not happened the way that they did without social media. So many important cases have been dealt with on social media. There's been accountability. If you tag a company, you get accountability, corruption, all of these things. A disclaimer that we're not dispelling the benefits of social media at a macro level. The second part of it is Kevin, from the co-founder of Instagram, where he speaks about how they founded Instagram and how his wife Nicole took a picture, and then he was like, "Oh, would you put that up on social media?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because my photos don't look as great as your friend Greg, right?"
Yeah.
And that's how they basically developed the filters of how to make the filters better, to make you look more beautiful, to be able to kind of remove certain blemishes, and then you become more confident, I guess, to share the best version of yourself on social media. The engineering behind social media, the I want to look beautiful, those are the pictures that I share. I only share my best life. Those are the things that I think are worth interrogating in this conversation.
I remember thinking that the reason why I post a lot of things is because you want to create some sort of landmark for important moments where this day was important, or this conversation with this person really impacted me, that I want to have this stake in the sand for that moment, right? Which is the one side of the coin, but then the other side of the coin could be, why does that have to be externalized? And why can't it be in that moment, me acknowledging that, shucks, dude, this meant so much to me, why can't that moment be complete? And I think a part of needing all these milestones is someone posed this interesting thing to me, that in our generation, because a lot of us are performance-based, we enjoy jobs that are project-based, where at the end of every small project, I can tell I've done well, you know? And I think it's similar, the constant need for milestones is when I go through a tough patch, it's nice to go through my timeline and think about all the great times, right? And is it a bad thing? I don't know. But I do think it does create some sort of dependency on needing something that pulls you out constantly versus being able to deal with the heart of, okay, cool, this is how I'm feeling now. What does that mean? And let's process.
See, my question would be, is the experience less than if you were to take a picture and put it in your photo album, your personal photo album? Why must the picture go onto Instagram and Facebook for it to validate that the thing really happened? Like, I think there is an element in us that wants that, like, that affirmation, you know, and that little bit of a, like, that like and the whatever, and you don't want to admit to yourself that you really want that thing.
Because it sounds childish, right?
And lame. I really want, I don't really care. But at the same time, there is something that it feeds, right? So I think it becomes corrupted in places where pride intervenes, in places where a very deep desire to be affirmed intervenes, like in those spaces. And so I feel like,
because even with what you're saying, captions go as far as, these are my friends.
Yeah.
Oh, how are your friends? Oh, this is my life. My score. What are you doing with your life? Which for
my friends are better than yours.
Exactly. Or it's just like, this is my day. What does your day look like? Or which for me then more directly speaks to this idea of it's almost a relativity. And it's not an expression of just, this is my life and I enjoy it, but it's more relative to yours. I'm aware that I'm doing better and I want you to see it, which is a perversion of social media.
The comparison, the unconscious comparison as well, right? Like in real life, if I'm leaving for a holiday, right, and I'm about to go somewhere, to Thailand or whatever, outside of my house, I'm not going to put a poster that says, away for 7 days, you will only find me later. But how absurd is it that when I'm leaving to go to another country, I check in when I'm at the airport, right? I post a picture of my passport and, you know, like being like, chasing...
I'm sorry, I just never tried out that caption somewhere.
Chasing sunsets. But actually, I actually have the actual quote here. in real life, would you leave a sign outside your house telling people that you're not home, that you'll return after 2 weeks, right? Yet online, we arrive and check in, telling the entire world that we are not home, that we have gone for a holiday. Tragedy is that we are less bothered, I guess, by the vanity of that, right? If someone gives me a compliment on Twitter, I retweet that.
Why?
Why do I retweet it? So I guess it's so that it's on my wall as well. It's not just in the comment section. But other people get to see the fact that I'm being praised. And what is the purpose of those kinds of daily, very abnormal? If you say, Sika, you look great today. I don't say when there's coming. Did you hear Sharon? She said I look top stuff.
Yeah. I'm doing great. Like, I think it's because it allows you to live in a virtual space where there's not much accountability. It's a virtual space, and I do think part of us likes to imagine things to be better, imagine another place. And now social media affords you this virtual space where you can kind of like share an extension of yourself, like that people might not interface with daily. Now all of a sudden you can just be like posting about like a work-related thing, like something that you've done and an achievement that you've gotten or whatever. But in your office, you're not necessarily going to be going to everyone and saying it's almost like it allows you to kind of indulge that place in yourself that just wants to be like, no, but in this virtual space, therefore, I want to.
It's interesting because on that virtual reality I remember reading, it was Sadie Smith in one of her essays. She talks about the idea that the thing with social media is that it creates celebrity status or influence status without having earned it. So what that looks like is you have this assumed idea that everyone thinks about every small thing you do. So people care that you're going to brush your teeth, people care that you're going to read now or that you're having coffee. When in reality, no one should care, but also it almost strips away the desire to fulfill your potential. And if you were meant to achieve influence, to actually chase it. Because in this world, you are already influential, you are already successful, you already have 40,000 followers, but you haven't earned it in reality.
Do you know what, the other interesting thing for me is like the social imagination that it captures, right? So it gives us a particular kind of metric of what it means to be a young person making it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I travel, I put the pictures of my passport, I graduate, I put the pictures of my graduation, how proud my family is, I buy a car, I share it, I get engaged, I have a picture that says I said yes, right? Like so all of the milestones, and it creates an imagination for most young people of this is where I should be.
Yeah.
It's the capturing of the social imagination, the fact that we all start to believe a particular kind of narrative about progress, right? Or what it means to be going forward in life. And I think there's something to be said about that, the injection of those ideas, those singular ideas. I don't know.
That's interesting.
You know? Like,
because those are the things that are highlighted.
Those are the things that are highlighted, those metrics.
Do people have more time? Like, why this incessant need to continually pick up your phone? Like, people will be at work and they can't concentrate. When you're at school, you can't concentrate. You'll be conversing, you can't concentrate. So it's almost like it's interjecting, like in your life, right? But at the same time, why are you able to say, sorry, I can't make it, I'm so busy. But then you have 2 hours in your day that you dedicate to social media solely. Do we actually have the time to be doing it? Or are we just so hooked that it's like, it's too late? Like, I would rather live in this virtual place rather than actually go and meet with people.
I think it's unconscious hooked-domness, ne? That's my thing.
I actually don't know.
Because first of all, nobody says I'm addicted to social media. Like that pathetic food. I can't put my phone down. But
everyone will be like, yes, me.
Let's go to rehab. But when one of the co-founders of Facebook, one of his interviews, he says, I can't believe what we actually did. The manipulation that we did and exploiting the most raw human vulnerabilities when we were creating Facebook. So the fact that there's likes, there's heart. If I go comment on someone's YouTube video, it says, congratulations! Someone just liked your comment. Why did congratulate for that? Like, these constant go for it. If you send me a message on Facebook, if you start typing back on my status, I can already see those dots, ne? So that's an addiction, right? So I can't go because I know if someone's writing back to me, I leave, I'm asking, who's writing back to me? Those are part of like the
engineering,
the actual engineering of it. But at the same time, as a society right now, because we're so captured by the idea of being on it, we're not thinking, but something is being done with our minds. There's some kind of exploitation that's happening.
Then my question is, and this is my current, dilemma personally, is that how do you then exist in that space and not fall folly to these things? But so if you feel like I need to be on Instagram or I need to be on Facebook for, say, promoting stuff or whatever.
Promoting my book.
Not the name of my book. So how do I, and it's something I remember commenting on Cecilia's post on Facebook, but what's the line, and this is a question that I don't know the answer to, what's the line between self-promotion and self-absorption? Because it's very fine, because self-promotion means I'm constantly posting about myself, my book, how great it is, reposting so that you know what the other people are saying on their profiles, all in the effort to market it. But where does it become self-absorption? And is it possible to exist in that space and not fall into these things? Or is it more a conscious action, and you'll get it wrong sometimes, and just accept that to exist in that space means that you'll fall into these things?
There will be speed humps.
Yeah.
You will.
So I don't know. I need counsel. I'm here asking for counsel. What does it look like? Yeah.
I think it goes with a level of awareness. Okay? So if you are aware that there is a possibility to be self-absorbed and self-indulgent, I think already that plays a role in almost like pulls the reins a bit.
Yeah.
You know. But if you are ignorant to that, or completely like in denial about its possibility, if you think I'm not like that, then you fall into it easier. I think that's a rule for most things. Okay? If you don't want to get to the extreme of something, be aware that the extreme exists. In that way, you stay on this side of the extreme. But almost it plays like a role like that. But I do think we end up having to actually take that hiatus. Because I wonder, when it comes to this self-absorbed thing, is this like self-indulgence and this vanity and all of that, right? Is it new, right? Has social media opened up a platform for us to express our vanity? Like, were our parents like that? Were the previous generations all like that?
Yeah.
You know? Or is it's a new thing that has been engineered to almost like normalize that place that's vain, and then if you dare say like someone is being vain or whatever, then they're like, don't dull her shine, jealousy, better, and you're like, guys, there's no balance. There's no balance. There's really no balance. So to answer your question, I think you must be reflective, aware of the extreme, but also sometimes I think a hiatus gives you an opportunity to really, because it's almost like being in rehab but still taking the drug, right? You can't. You have to step away from it to fully be able to understand its poisonness.
Yeah, the poison of the drug.
There's a really interesting TED talk called Deep Work. His basic thing is the fact that most young people say, I have to be on social media because I have to promote my book, for instance. I have to be on social media because I have to showcase my talent, and that's how people find me.
LinkedIn.
They find me on LinkedIn, they find me on all these kinds of networks. He says, once you develop that talent, there's always going to be people who can find you. And this constant thinking, but I have to be on social media so that I can promote what I'm doing and what I can do and what I'm about, it actually takes away from, it distracts you so much on the daily that you can't calculate the amount of time that you could have been using to hone your craft, right? There's another really interesting video by Craving Yellow where she speaks about, as young people, this is probably our greatest time to be building, really.
We're at the age in our lives where we need to be working hard. We're not at the age where we should be enjoying life. You know what I mean? And we're so obsessed with showing off, how you went on holiday in, Mombasa or in Italy, or how you're always at the gym working hard. Like, when are you working on your goals? When are you chasing your career? When are you studying, spending endless nights in the library?
The Facebook, the marketing head says people pick up their phone 157 times every day. They spend 145 minutes on their phones every single day. And that could be time that I'd be using maybe learning better about, I don't know, for me I really struggle with it. I don't know why I'm on social media. I constantly ask myself this question. Because there's times when it literally makes you feel empty. Like you'll sit there and you'll scroll and you kind of just like, what do I want there?
What am I doing there?
What does it matter that Sierra did this and this? So like you almost kind of, when you step out of it, and now you're like, let me get my day started. Now you're like, what was that? What happened in that time? What really happened? What really changed, right? But I do think that we do need to maybe ask ourselves, like when you post a picture, now when someone posts a picture of themselves, when you post it,
my bikini body,
what's going on? Like what's really going on? Because I don't think it's all bad.
Yeah, it's not all bad.
I don't think it's all bad.
Of course it's not. We wouldn't be there if it was all bad.
So for instance, let's say now you've lost 5 kilograms and you want to post a picture like, guys, finally we're done. That could be good. That could be encouraging to someone else. But I think, I don't know, at what point do you have to keep checking your heart? Like before you post, you must constantly check your heart.
Not constantly. You also go now, but there'll be no joy in doing it. Sometimes I feel like I just have to be like, just be happy. Just be a young person. You know, like you almost have to kind of just like numb yourself from thinking about being too critical of it. Like you have to be like, just enjoy it. You're connecting with your friends. You da 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 da. and you're being inspired in some ways by people's stories. You get to connect and you plugged into the greater world.
But I think there is a possible problem, because if I do something and I get all this praise on social media, then you put your phone down and now you have to deal with actual real life. And then I think all you're doing is cultivating dissatisfaction with life. And I think that's where the stats have increased about depression around social media, how people are suicidal.
So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook.
And I mean, from my experience, when I was off social media for 4 to 5 months, it was one of the few times in my life that I felt mentally clear and very clear about my thoughts, but also very sober about everything. And I'm able to be a lot more sober, which I think elevates your ability to engage deeper. And I felt like mentally free. The times where I'd pick up my phone and think social media, I'd read articles, I'd listen to podcasts. So I felt definitely richer for having been off it, even in terms of just my conversation, because I was reading a lot more, I was interacting a lot more. I remember sitting in spaces and people being on their phones and being the only one who isn't, because I wasn't on social media, and sitting there just looking at everyone or looking at something and just being like, this is actually crazy. Because I mean, you can chat, then it's like minute towards the end of dinner. When we're waiting for the meal, just check quick.
Now it's like, I've given you enough.
Yeah, let me just relieve myself. Let me just relieve myself.
Just going a little bit back, I was thinking of this verse that says, when you give, let your left hand not know what your right hand has done, right? And I think about even how when somebody gives and they post pictures of all those children smiling and receiving from them, it cultivates just like insidious heart evils, right? Like pride, that not only self-indulgence, but this showcase and self-image enhancement. Like, look at me, this is what I've done, I'm good, right? And I think we're seeking to be good in so many ways and to have other people see us in that way. So I think it's a big self-image.
So you're creating a caricature.
And you're creating a character and a brand, and especially in those times of like, what's your brand? What do you stand for? What do you know? You know, like a brand.
And they're like, you don't have a social media presence, then no one can find you. And
you don't exist. You don't exist. Who are you, right? Like,
yeah.
and maybe all of this has to do with identity and wanting to say this is who I am, and then we show you all the different patterns that showcase what
the
makes
trends
right. I'm giving you my data points of what makes me who I am.
Yeah.
But we're looking, we're searching, and we're hungry, and I think it's a God-sized void that none of all of this can actually
everything.
And that's
no
the thing.
fulfillment.
Until you are defined by God, you still want it everywhere else,
seeking.
right? You're just looking for it everywhere. And I wonder then can you exist in that space and not be influenced by it? Can you, like right now, we're talking about it and we're
gonna post it on social media.
Yeah.
In order for us to get
for the biggest time on Tuesdays.
Put it on Instagram, on Facebook and stuff to market it. But at the same time, I wonder, like, are you able to fully exist there and then say you're not influenced by it? Or when you step away from it, it creates not policing, but like a more, wow, this thing is really bad. And then when you go back into it, it's this guilt cycle of, I could be doing better with my time. I could be whatever, like, do you ever really exist in it and be free? And just be able to say, okay,
And be free, that's a
yeah,
good question.
At a point I tried the strategy where I'm just here to post. I'm not scrolling on your pictures. I'm not trying to find your stories. Exactly, I'm just posting and promoting. But you're still not free because I'm going back to see its reach. So even if it's a matter of
promoting
marketing,
it so that more people
I'm held to how far has it reached, how many people want to buy the book. So I think you'll always be a prisoner to it if you're on it.
thanks.
That's my
System be
feeling.
free, I don't think so.
I don't know.
And then there's people who say, but you can use it as a preaching tool. You can use it as a.
It's
don't-
still
that's
preaching,
true.
that's
So I think in terms of influence, I think we as people, in forming our identity, we also want to influence, right? You want your ideas to be perpetuated in some way in the world. So what I believe, I want to share it with other people. That's what consummates it, that's what makes it better. It grows everybody. So I think that in some ways we are seeking influence as well, right? Me. It's me. But it's not me. Of course,
There are good things.
There are
about
good
it,
things,
but
yeah, no
there's
doubt.
really, I think there is
No doubt.
a way that it can chisel your personality into something else that you're not even aware of, because it chips slowly, quietly, and the next thing where you were a triangle, now you're a square, and you're like, hey, I didn't know I held this view. I wasn't aware, you know. I remember for me one time having a conversation with someone about women and their role in marriage. Previously, I held a different view, and now because of social media and all of this, women power. Now when the person said something, I was like, no, but where do you get that from? Like, so I was very like, and it's only after the conversation I was like, when did you start thinking like that? Like, where did that all come from? And that's literally just because of
subconscious conditioning.
That's what I'm saying. It's a quiet like re-engineering, and then the next thing you're like, oh, hold on. And that's why I think it's dangerous to not ever inquire of yourself, but what's up? Now you're gonna wake up later and be like, oh wow, wow. All my kids, I put them on social media. Like you wake up.
Your baby has a photo album with captions, and you know people do that now. When toddlers have
I follow Cairo.
And who has captions? And you just chilling by the poolside. That's Cairo's caption. No, she's 2.
And the day someone is born, they're already on social media. There's like
welcome baby, welcome baby. And so then I wonder, is this not living in this day? Is this not what living is? Like maybe we can't keep flogging ourselves and saying, oh, real life is being out in the wild, in the fresh air, and real life is sharing with coffee with each other.
The one with rare attention. Maybe our age is to be attentive, distracted.
Maybe our age is really just to be
virtually.
It's so sad, but like, what if that's living?
But the fact that it keeps bothering us, the fact that it keeps being like, what am I doing? What is this? Where is it going? Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think we just wanted to kind of provoke you and have you thinking and have you engage. Have you ever felt the distress actually, or the emptiness of being on social media and kind of wondered, what am I doing here? Where to what end? Where is it going? And so we hope that you could engage and let us know what your thoughts are about this topic.
Yeah, and if you disagree, that would also be very insightful to understand why you see it purely as a benefit, and yeah, would love to learn from other people's experiences.
Okay. Take care, guys.
Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
See you in the next one.
My friend, my social media.
See you on Instagram.
John Piper has a quote that says, in the end days, many Christians will realize when God shows them the amount of time that they spent on Facebook or social media